Hello, this is Rory with the Love Chat, and today's topic is listen first. Now, this is video number 262. If you have a question you would like for me to consider featuring on the Love Chat, please write it in a comment below, and if you enjoy my videos, I would be so very grateful if you'd subscribe and hit like. As always, if you would like voice or email coaching on your situation, just visit my website, thelovechat.net/coaching, and if you would like a discount on voice coaching, just enter the code TLC2020. Now, I'm actually very excited to announce that we have a sponsor for this video, and the sponsor is wanting to have healthy relationships. This one's going to be important, so sit the hell down and listen closely. Now, I should be very, very clear that this video is obviously about listening. What's going to be important about this is many of the things you hear in this video, you're going to stop and say, yeah, but the other person should be doing that too. And you're right. And perhaps this might be a video you want to share with other people because of how important it is. However, I can't coach other people. I can only coach the people who listen to this video and who take it seriously. And if your initial reaction is to defend and say, well, my ex didn't do that, right? Well, then I can't help you because you are half of the equation in a relationship. You can't carry the whole thing, nor should you. And it is an overwhelmingly important skill because the number one killer of relationships, I guess they shake hands, they both take first place. Anxiety or communication. When I'm unable to really communicate my thoughts to you in such a way where I believe that you understand, you get it, and I feel heard. Sometimes that alone is enough to disarm somebody. Just the feeling that they are understood, that they've walked out of a fight or out of a disagreement or maybe out of a misunderstanding, and you get it. And they walk away feeling as though you got it. And that's the most important part. Because that is exactly what helps people feel as though they've been heard, and when somebody feels like they've been heard, they're less combative, and when somebody is less combative, they're less willing to participate in something that's only going to harm the relationship. And it seems so obvious, but we never think of it that way. We think, well, they're upset about something, and I need to resolve that something. Rather than, they're upset about something, let me sit back and make sure I really, truly understand. And if we don't understand, ask for clarification. And say things like, just hold on a second, let me get this right. I'm going to repeat back the situation, and if there's anything wrong or misunderstood or misrepresented, please tell me, and we can figure this out together. But we don't do that. It's so much easier to argue. It's so much easier to involve ego and say, you know what? I don't think you're right. I don't think this is right. I don't think you're being fair about this. And yeah, sometimes we're totally right. Sometimes the other person is being ridiculous. Sometimes we're being ridiculous. Sometimes the other person is making an actual effort and we're not giving them credit for it. Sometimes we could probably make a better effort. But really learning to sit and listen and say, I hear you, and having the other person leave the conversation or interaction as though they've been actually heard is probably one of the best things you can do for a person. So how does this work, right? How do you become a better listener? And it's kind of funny because you would think that listening is a skill that's pretty obvious. You just sit, you shut your mouth, and you open your ears. And yet some people aren't great at it. What it comes down to is arguments. And arguments stem from, to a degree, insecurity. Sometimes we're arguing about things because we genuinely, truly do not agree. Other times we argue to win, and that stems from insecurity, the need to win. And I think it's overwhelmingly important to admit to ourselves when we might act like that. You know, it's such a critical relationship skill, and this can prevent so many fights, and yet so many of us, frankly put, suck at this. But I think the best way to get better at argument and having more productive arguments is through listening. And learning how to listen better is a matter of self-reflection. You know, is the other person right? Do they have a point? Do I maybe try to win too many arguments? Am I arguing against this person? Or am I arguing against this problem? Because I made a video prior, it's called The Argument for Arguing, and I think arguing is fantastic. I think it helps bring people closer together. It allows us to constructively debate. It makes us feel as though we have been heard. And again, those are things that are really, really healthy for relationships. The feeling of expression so that resentment doesn't build up. And yet, arguments are pointless if we never listen. Then it is the quickest way to build up resentment and eventually corrode the relationship to the point where there's nothing left to save. So arguing, while it may not be pleasant, is quite important for a relationship's health. So, how to have constructive arguments? Listen. Just sit and listen. And to help with that, here's what I would like everybody to do the next time you're in a situation where you are in a disagreement or you are in a situation where you need to do some active listening in order to best help your partner or even just a friend through something that they need help through. Sit, look them directly in the eyes, and you should be in a very relaxed mood if possible. So something I do to relax, for example, is I'll have a cup of coffee and maybe I'll take my dog for a walk and then I'll be ready to be in a good headspace to talk. But if I had a really frustrating day or maybe somebody bumped into my car earlier or whatever it might be, obviously this may not be the best time for us to have a discussion that is serious, right? I'm not going to bring my best self to the discussion. I may be emotional, and emotion does get in the way and makes these things worse. But I think it's really important to sit down and look the other person in the eye and say, how can I help you? Because that's what it comes down to. At the end of the day, we all want the people in our lives to thrive and be better and succeed. And, we say things like, how can I help you? But I don't know that we always mean them. And don't get me wrong, we'll do it, right? Oh, well, can you help me move my furniture to a different house, right? I'm moving. Okay, well, that's obvious. Oh, can you babysit my dog? Okay, easy enough. Oh, I have a problem that involves you. Can you sit and listen fully and really absorb everything I'm saying before you comment? Oh, I don't know if I could do that. Hold on. You're asking the impossible. And it's so funny how we begin to react when that's the case. One of the things I've suggested in the past is that when you're arguing with somebody, you put a mirror behind your back and their back. That way, you can see your reflection because of the mirror behind them, and vice versa. And this will help you see and realize how you engage in arguments, if they're constructive or if they're emotional. Are they logical, and is the objective for you and the other person to solve the problem, or is the objective for you and the other person to fight against each other? In my mind, passion has no place in conflict resolution, and that's 90% of arguments are conflict resolution, particularly because we're speaking about a relationship context. Now, actual listening requires the understanding that listening will truly help the other person feel better, and you want to think about why you're in the relationship, to make the other person feel worse or to lift them up. And so here's a tactic that I've been thinking about. It's nothing crazy, honestly. You just have a conversation with a person, and then after the conversation, you call timeout. And the objective of the conversation is that we cannot get our tempers too high, and we state our case as though we are in a court of law. Here's what's bugging me. Here's what I need resolution to. What do you think? And then you tell them, okay, here's what's bugging me. Here's what I need resolution to. What do you think? Then you both take a timeout and go and write down exactly what you think the other person meant on a piece of paper. You then hand them your piece of paper and you receive their piece of paper, and then you grade their piece of paper based on your intention. Then you both have a discussion about what you wrote down on that piece of paper. It's something simple, and we've learned it and have done it for years thanks to schooling, and you'd be surprised how effective it is. Because the other person will say, I noticed on this line you had mentioned blah, blah, blah. And I appreciate that you wrote that, but here is a more constructive way to look at it, and it might help you understand what I'm feeling a bit more. And just like that, you're having a productive discussion. Because it's no longer in the context of arguing, right, or conflict. And instead, it has entered the context of educating, explaining. One of the things that we get so upset about is that sometimes the other person comes to an argument not quite fully knowing why they're upset. Now, they have a general idea, but they can't fully explain to the other person, here's what's bugging me. So I think it's very important, as well as we listen, to also reflect and understand what's going on, right? Do I know exactly what's bugging me before I bring it to the other person. Because if I'm not fully sure what's bugging me and I bring it to the other person, that is the number one guaranteed way to get upset. Ultimately, folks, remember that your job, first and foremost, and the other person will love you for it even more than they already do, is to listen. Is to really listen. Really ask yourself, do I understand what's bugging them? Because if I really make an attempt to understand what's bugging them, this can get a lot easier. And not only that, but I can be rewarded for my patience, for my ability to listen and critically think and ask myself, do I agree? And if I don't agree, that's fine, because this video is about listening. But if I don't agree, take my time, sit down with myself and say, let me formulate what I need to say to this person in such a way that they will understand, so that they can practice listening. And you're not always going to come to an agreement, but at least you feel safe to communicate with your partner, and that is worth its weight in gold. That's all I had for today. If you found my video helpful, and I hope you did, please subscribe and hit like. If you'd like extra videos every week, private live streams with me, one of which is happening next Sunday, and free giveaways of my best-selling book on Amazon, just visit my Patreon, patreon.com/thelovechat. Until next time.